I gotta tell you something right now, so get in your seat and now take a bow. Cause we gotta go and start the flick off to the shelf to pick. Oh, we have a show to put on your screen. Trust me now, cause my work's pristine. It's time to critique a classic movie. Let's have some fun and make it groovy. It's movie criticisms of movies, yeah. I said 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 it's... Hello everyone, Evan&AudreyS here. Last summer I did a video editorial on an upcoming film based off of the universe of Disney's The Lion King franchise. In today's episode of Movie Critisims, I will be reviewing that movie. It's called Mufasa, The Lion King, which serves as a prequel to the 2019 remake of the original film. Mufasa, The Lion King is an all-new musical drama film and, like I said earlier, is the prequel to the live-action Lion King remake. This movie tells the story of how a young Mufasa met a young Taka, who would later become Scar, became close brothers, and eventually fell apart. The film also explains how Mufasa rose to prominence as a legendary king and leader. Now, just for quick background, like a lot of other movie critics, I did not like the 2019 remake at all. To me, it was lacking in fun and personality, it was super boring, and it was without a doubt the most uninspired of all the Disney live-action remakes. So, what about this prequel, Well, I do think it is superior to the 2019 remake film. However, it's not a really great movie, still. It still has some issues for sure. I think the biggest praise I can give Mufasa the Lion King is that it is much more interesting and much less boring than the 2019 film. And I think that's because, unlike that movie, this prequel doesn't really have any official, already existing film to completely copy. So the filmmakers are pretty much forced to try a little harder on their screenwriting and dig a little deeper. Also, I do commend this film for having some pretty decent pacing for the most part. However, like I said, Mufasa is far from a great movie, and it has a few issues of its own. The biggest one to me is that while the film does have pretty decent pacing as a whole, there are quite a few specific scenes and moments that feel very rushed. For instance, we have when Mufasa and Taka first meet. Now, a better movie would actually take the time to, develop their relationship and bring out their chemistry so that their eventual decision to become brothers feels earned. But that's not the case here. Basically, after a couple of scenes after first meeting, suddenly Taka's like, "I've always wanted a brother," and becomes close to Mufasa. That feels really unearned to me. Now, there are some other notable examples of some rush scenarios in this film, but I'll touch on more of them later on in this review. As of now, I'm going to give 4 points to this movie's content. Mufasa himself may be a really pleasant character, but I would not really call him that interesting as a character. I think the only reason he's somewhat interesting is because of the whole prequel gimmick thing, not because I really cared much about Mufasa's journey. Taka, who would later become known as Scar, famously, is Mufasa's adopted brother, and the Lion King who saved him from crocodiles when they first met. Without any doubt, Taka's transformation into Scar was the aspect of this prequel I was the most interested in. So, what did I think of his downfall? Well, I do think it had some potential, but man, does it fall pretty flat in execution here. FYI, Taka's transformation into the evil Scar is an obvious major spoiler for this film, so you can skip to this time code right here if you don't want to hear about it. Okay, so we now know the reason why Taka became Scar, and that is because he was once attracted to who would be Mufasa's wife, Sarabi the lioness, whom the two brothers meet in the middle of their adventure. So, in one scene on their journey with Sarabi, Mufasa actually saves Sarabi from an elephant stampede, but he decides to give the credit to Taka to be a generous, selfless brother. However, later in the film, Sarabi makes Mufasa confess that he was the one who saved her, and the two fall in love. Seeing this, Taka becomes really jealous and feels betrayed by Mufasa. So, he decides to betray Mufasa himself to the villain Kiros, the evil lion. Now, when I just explained this Scar downfall plotline, you may think this actually adds up and feels faithful to Scar's original character. Well, not so fast here. To me, the big reason why this doesn't really work in execution here is mainly because the film basically rushes this heel turn, switch, when with one big musical number, instead of gradually taking its time to make things feel earned. Another rush scenario. Also, in all honesty, a part of me doesn't really buy that this is why Scar really wants his brother's throne. Sure, I do buy why he would be jealous, but let me ask you something. Do you think it would be really, worth would it really be worth stealing your brother's throne, murdering him, usurping his power, just because you want to get his wife? I mean, that just seems far-fetched. Didn't Scar do what Timon and Pumbaa did in The Lion King 1.5 instead? Huh? Anyway, also on the minus side of things, our villain of the film, Kiros, I found him quite rubbish as an antagonist. Yeah, he can be quite intimidating sometimes, but man, he's just there to... He's a villain for the sake of being a villain. He's not very memorable and not very interesting. The cherry on top, though, is his catchphrase, bye-bye, which is quite silly for a villain. The rest of the characters in this film are okay for the most part, actually. I did like Rafiki in this film, and Zazu was okay, although Timon and Pumbaa in the present day do often interrupt the narrative for some unnecessary humor or commentary. I'm going to give the characters 4 points. Much like the 2019 remake film, Mufasa the Lion King does have a lot of very realistic and believable CGI animal animation. But unlike that 2019 film, the animators do actually make an attempt to make the animals' emotions a little more expressive than they were previously. So kudos to the animators for taking the fans' feedback. Although I do think that I wish the animators pushed the emotiveness on the faces a bit more. But overall, I'm going to give 4 points to the animation. The voice acting in this prequel is okay at best. Yes, all the performers do sound believable for the most part, but much like the animation, they could have sunken their teeth into the roles a bit more. The only voice actors who do go all the way in their performances are Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen as Timon and Pumbaa respectively. But they can be a little irritating at times because Eichner and Rogen sometimes overact. And John Oliver wasn't too bad as Zazu either. I give the voice acting 4 points. You know what? I'm not going to talk about the score for this film because, a lot like the 2019 remake film, the vast majority of the musical compositions for the score are just recycled compositions from the original film. But what about the songs in this film? Are they any good? Well, keep in mind, unlike with Moana 2, strangely, Disney did actually get songwriter Lin-Manuel Miranda to write the songs for this film. So I actually have to applaud Disney for doing that for once in a while. But as much as it hurts me to say this, I have to say that this is one of Miranda's weaker efforts in a film. I'm sure he did his best with what he could do, but the thing is, I can barely remember any of the numbers from this film. So I'm going to give 3 points to this film's music. In conclusion, Mufasa the Lion King is a definite stand up from the 2019 remake of the original. It's much more original and engaging. The animals do have a little more emotion on their face this time, and the film does have some pretty nice Lion King lore. However, it still suffers quite a bit as both a film and a prequel film. A lot of important moments feel too rushed, many character arcs feel unearned, and the songs aren't very memorable despite being written by an acclaimed songwriter. Still though, I do applaud the filmmakers for trying a little more on their part. Mufasa the Lion King has received a total of 19 points out of 25, earning it a B+. So, have you seen Mufasa the Lion King? If not, do you want to or not, and why? Let me know in the comment section below if you'd love to, if you'd like. And if you enjoy this review video, then feel free to like, subscribe, and or share. So, the next episode of Movie Criticisms will actually be the Season 5 finale. That's right. So what will I be doing then? Well, I'm going to do something a little different this time and conclude the season with a top 5 best and worst video. But what is it on? Well, the different part is it's going to be reviewing my old reviews. Now, before I sign out here, I actually want to tell you all a very personal, important story in regards to the Lion King franchise. You see, back in almost a decade ago, in December of 2015, I first saw the pilot movie for the Disney Junior TV series, The Lion Guard. After letting it sink in a bit in my mind, I instantly started to become obsessed with the show, and I really wanted to find out how it turned out in the end. But at the same time, I was already a pretty terrible and immature person at the time and who was struggling at middle school. And when The Lion Guard started airing, things got even worse for me. Why? Well, I was definitely compelled by the show, yes, but at the same time, I did feel like The Lion Guard was trying to spread very problematic messages to its young audiences, like tolerating racism, segregation, and discrimination. Now, I won't go too much into detail about these times, but in a nutshell, this bad messaging in my mind, combined with my immaturity at the time, did make me an even more angry person. One who would often refuse to be respectful, because the Lion Guard pretty much made me associate respect with racism. About a year after the Lion Guard's launch in 2016, I switched to private school, and eventually, a few months later, entered a withdrawal from a medicine, which got me into a severe depression. Even worse, I was already starting to begin pleading with the Lion Guard to change its values before it wrapped up. But it did not. It stood by its racist beliefs until its conclusion in 2019. By then, finally started to become a better, healthier person who was actually doing quite great in high school. But even after the Lion Guy was long gone, I still felt upset and often dwelled on how it turned out in the end. Heck, in its last 2 years of original airing, I actually wrote myself a fanfic of how I would do the series last half. And even as recent as the beginning of last year, I was hoping that I could be able to get out this fanfic and basically redo this work and kind of, like, I don't know, like undo this malice. But now, I think I finally understand now that this will probably never happen because, like I said many times already on this channel, as currently all Disney cares about is, of course, money. So, of course, a year after The Lion Guard ended, I started this review series on my YouTube channel. And in all honesty, I've started to begun finding a new life, a new purpose in my life through this series. You know, as a film critic rather than a writer. So, why am I telling you this right now? Well, I just want to bring some closure to my old self and give it a big send off and farewell. Because, in honesty, I think it's time for me to move on. I'm Evan J. Sims, signing out. Peace.